In part 2, I'm going to walk you through our second writing situation in this course, which is our supporting a position with sources essay, or as I like to call it, the research paper. Now you can find the instructions for this paper on pages 14 through 15 in the syllabus, and they're going to be a little more involved than for our last paper, but here are some of the quick highlights that you'll want to know. One, this essay is not due this week, but it is due by the Sunday of week 4. Meaning that you have 2 weeks to write on this paper. So that's a bit different than last time. Again, it's about 2 to 4 pages, not including the works cited page, and you must have 2 sources that are credible or preferably scholarly. Okay, and I'll explain what scholarly is a bit later. Now, what I would recommend doing is go ahead, pause the video, go read these assignment instructions and make sure you understand them. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know and I'll walk you through them. But also, in the worksheet are these 4 questions here, and I would like you to answer them in the worksheet because going through them is going to help you really understand what the learning goals and objectives are for this assignment and what's expected of you. So go ahead, pause the video, read the assignment, and complete those questions in the worksheet, and then come back. Now, the writing process for this essay is going to take us 2 weeks, okay? So this week you're going to work on the discover phase, which is where you come up with your topic and working thesis, and the sources phase, where you do your research and find the sources that will help you with this essay. Next week, you'll do the plan phase, which is where you kind of read your sources and maybe outline your paper, and then draft, where you write the actual paper, and then revise and edit and submit. Okay, so this will be a 2-week process for this paper instead of a 1-week process like with the last essay. Now, timing. How much time will this essay take you? Our textbook again includes a little nifty breakdown. They say for your discovery phase, which is part number 1, it'll take you about 30 to 45 minutes. I think probably about 30 minutes to brainstorm and come up with your thesis would be good. And then for step 2, which is sources, which we're basically just covering these first 2 parts right here, they're saying about 2 to 3 hours. That's probably a little long for an essay where you only have to really have 2 sources, but it probably will take you maybe close to an hour to find your sources, and then maybe an additional hour to read both of them. So this estimate is not too far off. And then that means next week for steps kind of like 3 through 5, where you're drafting, outlining, and revising, that'll take you probably close to about 4 hours or so to do that. Now, like usual, they give you kind of a little breakdown to set a goal for what day you want to complete the steps by. So I recommend doing that just to keep yourself accountable and to help you space out your time, since this project is much more involved than the previous essay that we did. One other thing I want to point out is that a lot of times when doing a research paper, students are tempted to kind of make shortcuts. So maybe they kind of skimp on spending time on finding sources and just sort of pick the first ones that come up. Or maybe they don't really spend a lot of time with their notes, maybe just make a couple brief notes to themselves, but not real in-depth notes. And what I would say with that is if you're kind of skimping on these earlier stages, it's going to make your draft very weak. It's going to be hard to get an A-quality paper or an exceptional draft if you do shortcuts in these early writing process stages. So what I recommend is take your time. It's well worth it. Just kind of like to make a good house, you have to have it on a good firm foundation. You have to do the same with the paper. If you spend the time to build a good quality paper, you likely will have a good quality paper at the end. Alright, what I'm going to suggest now is that you take some time to come up with some ideas or possible topics for this essay. Some places of interest that you can look are maybe points of interest within your major, perhaps social issues in your community, workplace challenges, innovations and discoveries, or solutions to personal and family challenges. Now, for a research paper, I usually say try to come up with about 5 possible topics that interest you, okay, or at least 3. Never go with just the first one that comes to mind. So you may want to pause this video, come up with 5 possible topics, and then once you have those topics, you're going to evaluate them for which one will be the best for this paper. So here's 3 criteria that I give you for that. Your topic must be debatable, meaning that there's a controversy around it. It's not something settled that everyone agrees on, or there's differing views and opinions of how to resolve this issue. So there must be some sort of controversy. The second is that you must be able to find credible information on this. You can't just pull on, hashtags from social media or 1 or 2 news articles. There needs to be like books written on the topic, or maybe some scholarly journal articles, meaning this topic probably has to have been around for about a year or more. And then lastly, is this a topic you can talk professionally about? While passion and being very emotionally connected to an issue are great, sometimes that makes it hard for us to be a little bit objective about the issue or to be comfortable sharing the topic with a classmate or a coworker. So just make sure that this is something that you feel you could talk about in a professional manner. So go ahead, pause the video, use one of those methods in Chapter 15, finding ideas like the journalist questions or brainstorming or the mind mapping to help you come up with your possible topics for this assignment. And once you've done that, go ahead then and jump ahead and read Chapter 16, Strategies for Stating a Thesis and Planning, and then move on to the third part of our class session for this week.